Before you even think of giving your body to someone, listen to this story. What happened to Clara in that small city will make you pause and think twice. Welcome to today's story. This is why you should not have sex before marriage. If you love real-life inspired stories with deep moral lessons, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Once, in a small city called Riverton, there lived a 20-year-old girl named Clara. She was beautiful, confident, and had dreams bigger than the walls of her parents' small apartment could contain. Clara had just gained admission into the university, the first in her family to do so. Her father, a mechanic, and her mother, a primary school teacher, had struggled to raise her through determination and faith. They had only one rule that was repeated in every family devotion. Keep yourself, Clara. Your body is a temple. Don't let anyone defile it before your wedding day. Clara nodded every time, but she didn't truly understand why her mother emphasized it so much. To her, it felt old-fashioned, something only village mothers talked about. When she resumed school, she met Raymond, a handsome, well-dressed final-year student who drove a small Toyota Corolla. Raymond was charming, his words were soft and persuasive, and he had a way of making Clara feel seen, heard, and special. He called her his queen, and when he said, "I'll take care of you," she believed him. Within a few weeks, Clara started spending more time in Raymond's off-campus apartment. He bought her clothes, cooked for her, and helped with her assignments. For the first time, she felt like she had found real love. Her friends warned her, "Clara, don't let him pressure you. Guys in school just want one thing." But Clara smiled and replied, "Raymond is different. He respects me until one night." It was during the rainy season. The campus was unusually cold, and the power had gone out. Clara had gone to Raymond's apartment to study for her exams. The rain was pouring heavily, and she decided to wait until it stopped before going back to the hostel. Raymond offered her a blanket and said softly, "You can stay the night." "I'll sleep on the couch." At first, it felt innocent. But hours later, as thunder rolled outside, the silence between them grew heavy. Raymond reached for her hand and whispered, "I love you, Clara. Don't you trust me?" She hesitated. Her heart raced. The words of her mother echoed faintly, but Raymond's voice was stronger at that moment, and that was the night Clara gave in. The next morning, Clara couldn't look at herself in the mirror. She felt different. Raymond was sweet, holding her close and promising, "You're mine now. I'll marry you one day." But something inside Clara broke. She went home that weekend and could barely pray during Sunday service. Her mother noticed and asked, "Clara, is something wrong?" She forced a smile. "No, Mum. I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. Weeks later, at first things seemed normal. She and Raymond still went out, and he still texted her good morning messages. But slowly, things changed. He stopped calling as often. He started picking fights over little things. And then one evening, he didn't show up for their date. When she called, he said coldly, "Clara, you're acting too clingy. I think we should take a break." It felt like her heart had been smashed into pieces. She begged, "What about your promise? You said you'd marry me." But Raymond laughed bitterly. "Clara, please. We're just young. Don't take everything so seriously." A month later, Clara began to feel strange. Constant nausea, missed periods, and fatigue. She went to a pharmacy, bought a pregnancy test, and locked herself in the bathroom of her hostel. Her hands trembled as she waited for the result. When the 2 red lines appeared, she froze. "No, no, no, no." Tears rolled down her face. Her world went silent. She could hear her mother's voice again. "Keep yourself, Clara." She fell to her knees shaking. She tried to call Raymond. He didn't answer. She texted him, "Raymond, please call me." It's urgent. No reply. She tried again the next day. Finally, he responded with a short message. Don't involve me in your drama. Clara stared at her phone, her breath shallow. That night, she cried until her eyes swelled. By the time her parents found out, Clara was already 4 months pregnant. Her mother fainted when she heard it. Her father didn't speak to her for weeks. Neighbors whispered when she walked by. Classmates pointed and giggled. She became the girl who couldn't keep herself. The pain was unbearable. She dropped out of school temporarily, unable to face the stares and humiliation. At night, she would cry to God, "Lord, forgive me. Please forgive me. I didn't listen." Months later, she gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Hope, because that was all she had left. It wasn't easy. She worked small jobs to take care of him. Slowly, her parents forgave her, but life had changed forever. One evening, while sitting by her window, Clara wrote in her journal, "If I could turn back time, I'd wait. Because sex didn't bring me love, it brought me pain. Real love waits. Real love respects." Clara's life didn't end when she made her mistake, but it felt like it did. For months after giving birth, she could barely recognize herself. The laughter that once filled her voice was gone. The light in her eyes dimmed. The baby's cries became her new alarm clock, and sleepless nights became her companion. But every morning, when she looked at her son's tiny face, something inside her whispered, "You must rise again." Her parents, though disappointed, slowly began to see the strength in her. Her mother often said, "Even if you fell, Clara, you can still walk again." But let your story be a warning to others, and that became Clara's new mission. After a year, Clara decided to return to university. She saved money from her small job at a local pharmacy and re-enrolled. Walking into the campus gates again was terrifying. She could feel the stares, the whispers, the silent judgments. But she had learned something. Shame loses power when you stop hiding from it. So when people whispered, she held her head high. One afternoon, she joined a student fellowship. The first time she shared her testimony, the room went silent. "I made a mistake," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought love meant giving in. But love that costs your peace and future isn't love, it's deception. Don't let anyone trick you into proving love with your body." When she finished, people were crying. A girl came up to her afterward and said, "Clara, I was about to do the same thing this weekend. Your story just saved me." That night, Clara knelt by her bed and wept. But this time, it wasn't in guilt. It was gratitude. Clara began volunteering at the fellowship as a youth mentor. She helped organize talks about purity, purpose, and God's forgiveness. Her story spread beyond campus. Churches began inviting her to speak. At one conference, after sharing her experience, an elderly woman walked up to her and said, "Your scars are not your shame, my dear. They are proof that God can still use broken people." Those words became the foundation of Clara's life. One day, while walking through a cafe near campus, Clara saw someone familiar sitting at a corner table. Her heart skipped. It was Raymond. He looked different, older, worn out. His once proud posture was now slouched. Their eyes met briefly, and for a moment time froze. Raymond stood and approached her, guilt heavy in his eyes. "Clara," he said softly, "I've been meaning to reach out." She smiled faintly. "It's been a long time." "Yeah, I heard about your boy. Hope, right?" "Yes, he's doing fine." "Clara, I'm sorry. I was foolish, selfish. I ruined your life." Clara looked at him, calm but strong. "You didn't ruin my life, Raymond. You only helped me discover my strength. I forgave you long ago." He was stunned. "You forgave me?" "Yes, because holding on to pain would only keep me stuck in my past, and I'm not that girl anymore. Raymond's eyes watered. I wish I had waited. I lost you, and my peace. She smiled gently. Then learn from it. Don't repeat it, and tell others not to. And with that, she walked away, not out of bitterness, but out of peace. Years passed. Clara graduated with honors, balancing motherhood and school like a warrior. She started a small foundation called Hope Again, helping young girls who faced early pregnancy and shame find new paths in life. She began speaking at schools, youth programs, and churches across the country. Her story reached thousands. One of her favorite lines became, "Purity isn't about perfection. It's about purpose. Waiting isn't foolish. It's wise. Don't give your forever to someone who only plans to stay for a moment." People loved her honesty. She wasn't preaching from a pedestal. She was speaking from pain that had turned into purpose. One evening, after a youth event in Lagos, Clara met Nathan, a young pastor who had attended her session. He was calm, kind, and respectful. Unlike Raymond, he didn't flirt or rush. He simply said, "Your story moved me. You've turned your pain into power. That's rare." They became friends. Over time, their friendship grew deeper, not built on lust or flattery, but on mutual respect, shared values, and faith. When Nathan proposed 2 years later, he said, "I don't see your past, Clara. I see the woman God rebuilt. I want to build the future with her." Tears filled Clara's eyes. She had once believed no one would love her again, but now she stood before a man who saw her scars and still chose her. Their wedding was small but beautiful, filled with joy, laughter, and hope. Clara's son, now 5, walked her down the aisle holding her hand. As she stood at the altar, she remembered her darkest nights and smiled. "God, you make all things new." When she said "I do," it wasn't just to Nathan. It was to peace, to healing, and to a life built on lessons learned the hard way. After their honeymoon, Clara began sharing one message online and in her speeches. Waiting is not weakness, it's wisdom. Don't let pressure make you trade your purpose. Sex before marriage won't keep love, it only complicates it. Real love respects boundaries. Real love waits. Her videos went viral. Many young girls began writing to her, saying her story stopped them from making the same mistake. She often replied with a smile, "That's why I went through it, so you wouldn't have to." Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop your thoughts about the story. Also share to your loved ones before they fall victim. See you in the next video.